Hey everybody, hope you're all doing well tonight. Hey Tech Death. Hey little Pookie, I'm so glad you're here. Hey Dee, how are you? Thanks for coming. So tonight what I was going to do, I thought we would have a little bit of an update. I got a couple of things I want you guys to watch, a couple videos, short ones, and I thought we would watch those, and then I thought we would discuss a couple of the most recent events that's happened since I was talking about Delphi that I learned. I want to talk about that. And then I also thought that we would go over some of the trending topics that's over on Reddit and see what's going on over there about the case and some of the topics that they're discussing. So that's what I thought we would go over tonight. So it's good to have you all here. So I guess let's get started. The first thing I want to do is, I don't know if you guys are aware or not. Hey, Y, good to see you. Good evening. But the detectives on the Delphi murder case are heading to France. And I don't know if you guys have heard all of that or not, but I thought we would listen to the News Nation broadcast where they talk about it. So that's the first thing that I'm going to share. So just let me get my screen up here and share it with you all. Yeah, they're going to France. That's where Yubo, the new social media app that they're looking into, is from. And so I talked to a couple of content creators today. Hello, Zulu Tango 9. Good to see you. I talked to a couple content creators today about why they think possibly they're going. And I think that they're going there to most likely to look at servers and see if they can get some information. So let's hope that their trip is fruitful and they get some good information. So let's go ahead and listen to the news anchor talk about this.
Back now with a special edition of News Nation Prime, the Delphi murders 5 years later. As we have mentioned, the biggest evidence in this case comes from Libby German's cell phone. That grainy image of a man on the high bridge and an audio recording that the 14-year-old had the forethought to take, even in the face of danger. Hundreds, if not thousands, of tips have poured in from social media, internet sleuths, even podcasts about the murders of Abby and Libby. Correspondent Marky Martin joining us live now to talk about this piece of the puzzle. And Marky, it's not just this case. We have had several cases this year gain traction online. So how does this impact the investigation, and what does law enforcement think about it?
Hey, good evening, Marnie. It really depends on who you ask. You know, we've had some agencies who say they are completely on board with help from social media. And then you have other agencies who think it actually dilutes the investigative work at hand. But two things are for certain, and that is social sleuthing. It's a double-edged.
Sorry, guys, this is the wrong video. This is the other video that I wanted you guys to see. I apologize. This one is talking about us, the social media sleuths that are out there that are trying to deep dive the case, get factual information, and even the ones who think they are going to solve it. So that's what they're talking about here. I thought this was a good conversation piece because we talk about it all the time, about it's important on how we tell their story. Hey, country girl, so good to see you. So here we go. Let's listen.
Sword. And also, this group of online detectives is a growing group, and they are on the case.
Social media allows law enforcement to be proactive, to get things in front of the masses.
Arlington, Texas is home to one of the most infamous unsolved murder cases in the country, that of 9-year-old Amber Hagerman, whose 1996 abduction and brutal murder eventually inspired the life-saving Amber Alert. Her killer has never been caught. Still, police here continue to work the case and frequently update and monitor social media for new leads. Deputy Chief Christopher Cook tells News Nation, at first, his investigators feared the internet.
I remember when we first adopted social media, trying to get information from detectives was like pulling teeth because they really didn't know exactly how's this going to work, or is this going to work myself out of a job where I'm no longer needed as a detective, and quite the contrary.
He says there are many cases his department wouldn't have solved without it, but on major cases like the Delphi murders, online tips come in so quickly it can overwhelm investigators, especially in smaller departments.
We have this amazing ability to communicate today, and I don't understand it. I'm not going to pretend to.
Indiana State Police Superintendent Doug Carter says his officers have received information about the Delphi murders from around the globe, but it turns problematic when internet sleuths make accusations and post them publicly. It happened for his teams numerous times after sketches of a potential suspect were released.
I think when people start doing their own investigation and start comparing what they think, that creates problems. We'd ask them not to do that. There are a lot of people that look like the sketches that we've released. And then when you blow that out there with a picture of somebody that they think next to a sketch, imagine what it does to that person if they're not involved at all.
There's no perfect system, but ultimately the overall goal for everybody involved should be to find the killer.
Derek Levasseur hosts a popular podcast called Crime Weekly. He says the Delphi murders is the type of case his fans really get into.
I think the web sleuths out there are baffled by this case because on the surface, it appears like the police have a lot, right? We have the suspect's voice, we have video for the alleged suspect, and yet here we are 5 years later talking on the anniversary, and there's still no one that's been charged with the murder of Libby and Abby.
And the biggest reminder from law enforcement to the true crime community, a laptop isn't a badge.
Certainly we want the tips and we don't want to shy away from people sending us information, but there is sometimes a line that is crossed. Some people are really their own private investigators. They'll take a piece of information that's come out from a law enforcement agency and all of a sudden they're kind of on the trail.
Yeah, so Marnie, unfortunately, this entire social media conversation doesn't really come with a conclusive answer. You get the good with the bad. Of course, the bad is that misinformation can spread like wildfire. Completely innocent people can become suspects overnight in the court of public opinion. But as you mentioned off the top, just in the past year, we've had some really big cases that have been solved largely in part due to social media. Gabby Petito comes to mind first. The two children who were kidnapped, Amber and Noah Claire, they were eventually identified in California because of social media. And then, of course, with these Delphi murders, investigators and the family really have a better sense of the timeline of those girls because of social and what they shared on Snapchat.
Yeah,
Marnie.
it could be the critical information they need. Marky, in your talks with law enforcement, did they provide any guidance to the folks who do want to help, albeit from a keyboard?
I asked Chief Cook from Arlington PD that very question. He said the thing that has to stop is people posting what their gut or their hunch is telling them. He says that is not helpful. It also becomes hazardous when online sleuths really think they can solve it. They show up to scenes, they start trespassing on public property. He says that has to stop as well. If you have a lead, take it straight to the police department. And then he says for people who are just kind of consuming posts and information online, don't believe everything that you read, of course, and really be smart about what you decide to share, who you decide to engage with, because on the other side of that screen is a whole law enforcement team that's having to dig through every single thing that is posted online with these cases. Marnie.
Marky, thank you. Good advice. Thanks for watching. Click the red subscribe button below so you can get more.
So I really thought that that was extremely important to share, obviously because the online presence of this case is overwhelming, and I think it's overwhelming to all of us. There has been so many things happen just since December in this case that are absolutely mind-boggling, and a lot of it's happened online. So much of it has just been information released, information gathered, whether it be purposeful or accidental, releasing by law enforcement. No one truly knows. But I think when you listen to law enforcement in that interview talk about social media and the pros and cons of it when covering murder cases and how they utilize that tool to their benefit, it really says a lot when they talk about how we shouldn't do a lot of the things that we see every single day in this case. We probably all have been guilty of it at one point or another. When they talk about you putting out there your gut instinct or your gut feeling on what you think about the case and how that is more hurtful than helpful. And we're all human beings. We all have opinions. We all want our voices to be heard, especially when we're talking with people who may not agree with us on a certain topic. I can't tell you how floored I am every time I start talking or thinking about Delphi with a group of people, because there's always one or two that come with their guns blazing, with their absolute, this is what happened. Why are you even talking about anything else? And those opinions to me are so hurtful because they don't help the case. It creates this animosity around the case where we end up with, I've said it before, it's almost like cheerleaders for your favorite sports team. I mean, it's like you have the Dodgers on one side and the Cardinals on the other, and you've got this fan base, and it's mind-boggling. I mean, we're talking about two little girls that were brutally murdered, and I would think everyone would want the same outcome. Everyone would want Bridge Guy, no matter who it is, to be caught and punished for this crime. So at the end of the day, it doesn't matter really what your theory is or what you think, it it matters about factual information and what we do with that factual information and how we try to keep their story in the forefront of everyone's mind, because I do think that helps the case by bringing forth people who may not know that they have information. That's one of the things, being a person who reports on true crime or follows true crime in that sense. That's one of the things that you learn early on, is that a lot of times in these cases, people know a lot and they don't realize they do, or they talk themselves out of it. And law enforcement has told us that numerous times over the last 5 years. If you feel you have some sort of information about Delphi or anything relating to it, please tip it in and let them be the ones to decide whether or not it's useful information. Don't you be the one to sit there and sit on it for days or weeks and think, well, this may be a waste of their time, and on and on. You can kind of see where I'm going with that. So what I like to tell people and just remind everyone is that if you do have information that you may think, or you've come across someone who makes you kind of, take a second look or wonder, don't put it out on social media. Just tip it into the tip line and let them be the one to look that person up, do the vetting of that person. And I think that's more helpful in the long run. So, why I see that, I do see where you're coming from. Why says, for some creators, true crime is just a paycheck. I see where you would get that feeling for some creators, possibly, for sure. I do think there are good creators out there who are monetizing their channel but are doing very good things. And anytime we can find missing people or help the DNA fund or donate money to those kinds of organizations, we're doing a good thing in my book. I know that Gray Hughes gets a ton of negative press and negative feedback on YouTube and other social media because of other reasons. But everything that he does around his channel, to me, is, when it comes to donations, is really a good thing. And he continues to do that work, not only on Delphi, but on many other cases. And his community helped actually solve an unsolved murder through the DNA fund. So I commend him for that. Now, as far as what Dee says, I agree with this. Why shouldn't creators be compensated for their work? And my feeling is, if a person feels the need or want to support a channel, then they should have every right to. I don't think people are strong-arming people. I feel it's up to that person to make that decision for themselves on whether or not they want to. Hey, Crime Sleuth number 3, welcome. It's up to them to make that decision, I guess, is what my point is. We all have the ability to make our own decisions. And I get it's a controversial topic out there. I really do. But after I started my channel and I started doing videos and lives, hey, Alexa, thank you. I really, really try to keep it drama-free here. So welcome. Yeah, no, I'm not about that. So I'm glad you found our channel. You're very welcome to be here. So I guess what I'm saying is, we just need to judge a little more gently, because when I started my channel, I was really unaware of what it took to make videos, the time that it takes to put together live streams. I know a lot of people think that this is just super easy sailing, and we just sit down in front of our mics or our cameras and we just start talking to you guys, but that's not true. At least not for me. I do a lot of research before my lives. I always try to have content that's going to be somewhat educational on the case. I try to pick topics to go over, and so we're not just beating the drum, the same stuff, over and over again. But it's a lot of work. And the videos, especially, one video that's 30 minutes long can take me over 12 hours. By the time I put the video together, by the time I do the narration for the video, that's how long that video can take for me to do. So maybe it's because I'm not good at it, but I've been told my videos are good. But yeah, I mean, it's a lot of work. So I do think that people, Chris or D, thank you. And you will have an option soon. I finally made up my mind that I am going to go ahead and do a PayPal account for my channel. When it's able to be monetized, because YouTube doesn't allow you to monetize your channel until after you hit 1,000 subscribers. And I think I'm at 760. So I'm getting there. I don't have a real long way yet to go, but once I do that, I will allow for memberships probably on my channel, and we'll do some members only things. But I also want to do a monthly where we take that money, or at least a portion of it, and we donate somewhere. So that's something that I also want to do. Hello, Londoner. Excuse me. Sorry about that, guys. So yeah, I just thought it was a really good thing to go over how detectives, and especially detectives who work on murder cases, feel about internet sleuthing or internet sleuths. Thank you, Crime Sleuth 3. I appreciate that. I do try to work and keep my work with integrity. I really do. Obviously, I am not perfect, and I have always said, if somebody finds something I say or in one of my videos to be wrong, please let me know by either dropping a comment in the video or here in the chat or emailing me. Hey, Grismatically, it's so good to see you tonight. How are you? I hope you're well. Oh, why, you are so nice to put me up there with Incog. I really love her. I've watched her for a long time, and she's just a great content creator. I know she was quiet for a while, and I was really missing her, and I'm glad to see that she's back doing some things again. It gets really hard sometimes. Oh, Grizz, I hear you. I hear you on that one. Hey, Chihuahua. It's so good to see you. Thank you for joining us from down there in Australia. It's always good to have you here. But yeah, you get tired, and just like I was talking to a couple of creators today about different topics. And one of the things is how emotionally draining this case can be for all of us. We all at times need to take a break. Hey, Curly JK. Good to see you. Good to see you. I hate when I'm that tired. It's really hard to, I hate when my body says it's time to go to sleep. You know, there's a lot of different content creators around this genre. And I think there's somebody out there for everybody. Not everyone likes a certain style or the way someone presents things. And other people, you know, other people may find this person absolutely wonderful, but other people don't. Maybe it's the voice they can't handle, or maybe it's whatever. And so I'm always glad to tune in and look at other creators and see what they're doing. What bothers me is, like I said before, when we see the creators that are sensationalizing the case and telling stories that are fabricated or half-truths. And when you have new people coming into the Delphi case every day, because we have new people that are grabbing onto this case that have never heard of it before, and they're all of a sudden interested. You want them to be getting good information, because 5 years is a long time to have a case out there with all the things happening and all the different layers we have in this case for new people to come in. So that's just something that I wanted to bring up tonight, for sure. But I've got another one, and this is the video that I was talking about in the beginning that we're going to listen to. And this is where they're talking about why the investigators are heading to France. I just wanted everybody to see this. It's not very long of a video, so it won't take long. But Digital, welcome. Hello. It's good to see you. And I cannot believe that somebody said that to you. I don't think I've ever heard your voice, but I just think that you've got such good feedback. I just can't imagine somebody not wanting you in their channel. I've never had an issue with anything that you've said. So, oh well, you know, you can't please everybody. Hey, Jane from the country, good to see you. Glad you're here. So let's go watch this video, guys, and see what, it's very short. So I'm just going to share my screen with you again. And let's watch it.
Following a lead related to that Anthony Shots social media profile, why investigators are heading overseas to France to expand their investigation.
When they said it was short and sweet, they meant it. And we couldn't really hear it. All they said basically was that they were heading to go to France. So I thought we might chat about that a little bit, because I think that that's a pretty big thing to know. So with that being said, we now know for sure that the investigators in Delphi are heading to France. They are going to be looking, I'm sure, and talking to the social media company Yubo, which I think is much bigger and larger over in Europe. There's a lot of people here that say they've never heard of it. But then again, there's a lot of our teenagers who are using it. So I think that that's important to know as well. Alexa, that's terrible. I am so sorry that that happened to you. I don't like it when people are, yes, Chihuahua, Yubo is based in France. That's why they're heading there. I don't like it when people call other people names. I think that we don't know each other personally. And when you stop to think about it, it's like calling a stranger names. Why would you do that? And um, you're just trying to have a discussion about a topic. And I don't think so, Londoner. I think the reason they're going to France is because they want to talk to the social media company Yubo, which they want to see their servers and see if they can extrapolate evidence, I believe, from the chat logs of this company. So I think that that's what, to me, that's why they're going. That's why I think they're going, not because the Kleins went to France. But I think, you know, it's, if you're treated like that, I think it goes and says a lot about whoever it is that treats you that way. I've noticed since I came to YouTube as a creator that the women creators are treated differently than the men creators are. I'm not sure exactly why that would be, but probably it goes to a lot of the same things that we see in society in general. But we have a lot of very smart, intelligent, terrific women who cover true crime genre on YouTube. So, you know, I think that with that being said, you know, just give everybody a fair shot. And like Little Pookie said, if you're treated unfairly or talked horribly to, don't go back. And I laugh about that because I get a Little Pookie, I'm laughing about what you said because most viewers are old women. That's not true. And the reason I know that is because of my analytics that YouTube sends me on all of my content. I get analytics for my lives. I get analytics for my videos. And you know what's funny is that when I first started out, the majority of my viewers were men. And now it's kind of evened out, and the women have definitely taken over, but they're between the ages of 30 and 45. And I don't consider that old women. So I was kind of surprised by that. But, you know, I do think that there's a number of things that are going on here or could possibly I think that they are doing a couple of different things. I think that they've found out information over time, probably through the CSAM investigation, that has led them to a path that they're following now with the Kleins. Once they started getting into that, I definitely believe that they were focused on Kagan, but I also think that they are looking at his dad. Hey, Joe, good to see you. I think that there's a lot of reasons for this. Again, we've talked about it. The fact that there were two individuals in that home at that ISP address using two separate devices talking to the same person, so the same victim, with different phonetics and linguistics. We all speak in patterns. Hey, Colette, good to see you. We all speak in a certain way. We write a certain way, and those things can help identify us. It's almost like digital fingerprints. People aren't aware of that, but the way you speak and the way you talk and the words you choose to use can identify you. And I think they know for a fact that there were two separate people speaking to these victims. With all of that being said, now, does that make them guilty of murder? No, for sure it doesn't. I think that we have to keep an open mind as to what could be going on here. There's no way for us to know for certainty of anything because we don't know enough about the evidence that we can't see. Hey, Unroyal, it's so good to see you. And so yeah, you know, they're going to France. They're going to get information, and I'm just hopeful that the information that they gather is something that will be very useful to the case. They wouldn't be going all the way across the pond to France if they didn't have good reason to go, in my opinion. So in this day and age, when you can request things digitally, there's a good reason why they are going in person. And we'll just have to wait to see how that develops. We may not know anything until the case finally comes to a head and someone is actually arrested. I think it's very possible that they were involved in the dark web. It would not at all surprise me. CSAM happens a lot on the dark web. It is, yes. Little Pookie, the company itself is located in France. Yubo, the company, is in France. It's a French company. So I don't believe in coincidences. Not when you're talking about this kind of a thing where it's a murder. I don't think that it could at all be a coincidence that Anthony Schatz was speaking to the girls. That's just my opinion. But with that being said, it's sure circumstantial evidence. Hey, AJ, I'm so happy to see you. Thank you for coming. I hope things are going well for you. Thanks, Digital, for saying that. Digital said 1 is a coincidence, 2 is a clue, and 3 is a map. And there are just so many things pointing these guys to the girls that it's not merely them talking about the girls. You know, they supposedly went on vacation to Vegas, and no sooner than they get to Vegas and they're internet searching how long DNA remains on a body, they're searching for everything they can about Bridge Guy because he was announced while they were gone. They were listening over and over to the voice. They were searching anything they could find on the case and what they were putting out. And yeah, this isn't a coincidence by any sense of direction, in my opinion. So I wanted to go ahead and we're gonna delve into Reddit because I thought it would be a really good thing just to go over there and kind of see what was on people's minds and what they've been talking about this last week. Yeah, Unroyal, you're right. Unroyal said, and he's done, if you guys aren't familiar with Unroyal, he has an amazing channel himself. Please go look it up. He's got great Delphi content, and I cannot say enough about him. He's got great integrity, and his videos are amazing. So you can also see him on live streams with Real Chill Graz. It has him on there, and I'm hoping to have him on soon. So just like I said, go check him out. You won't be sorry. Hey, Jamie, good to see you tonight. So I found a couple of things right off the bat. The first place I always go when I go to Reddit, and for those of you that don't know, I do have a Reddit sub, Delphi's Daughters, And I started that way at the end of last summer. And I did Reddit for a long time. And then I was a mod for Real Chill Graz for a really long time, and decided that I would venture into YouTube. So that's how I ended up over here. So I do still have a connection to Reddit. I'm there every day. But a lot of times I don't get a chance to really delve into some of the content the way I want to. And I thought, well, this would be a good spot to do it. And you get a whole bunch of different opinions this way as well. So I thought that this was an interesting comment. The post is, so has there been a real breakthrough in the case? Or is this just more noise? As someone who is not as up to speed as most of the truly dedicated people here are, I really don't know what to think. Some reports talk as if we're on the brink of an arrest, while others give the impression that law enforcement are as much in the dark as ever. Please help clear up my befuddlement. So right there you can see it's what we were talking about earlier. It's a brand new person, and she or he are concerned about the fact that they don't know as much about the case as they would like to, and they're getting two stories, two sides of the stories. One side saying the case is close to being solved. Another side of the story is that law enforcement doesn't know anything. And we've all been there. We've heard it. We've heard this. So nothing new there. One of the comments was, my opinion doesn't really matter, but personally, I think this is a good thing and law enforcement is really close. When this case broke, it seemed like a very random thing, and these girls were just in the wrong place at the wrong time. No connection. But now we know that a catfishing child predator ran a Snapchat account and planned on meeting one of them that day, the day they died. Most of the time, when there is a connection between the perpetrator and the victim, you're going to have an arrest. But let's talk about the Yubo update, because this is really important. From what I know about Yubo, it's a make friends app for the minors, but they use it to meet romantic partners. It is a huge social status in youth culture, since they can't use Tinder. They obviously know that one of the girls talked to the Snapchat profile, but it is possible they met on Yubo. We know that someone used a teen model as a profile picture, which Snapchat doesn't have profile pictures. And in 2017, Snapchat's quick ad was based on friends you already had, meaning that this account needed to meet a lot of girls around the same age in the same area. Why does this matter? Because law enforcement knows that this account met multiple girls one way and that it probably used Yubo too. I think they want witnesses, and they know who did it. The person of interest might be under custody for another crime, giving them more time to prepare prosecution. Again, it's just my personal opinion, which doesn't matter. So I think that that person's opinion matters. Good night, Curly. You have a good evening. I'm sorry that you're so tired. But you can definitely catch it on the replay. So don't worry. It's not like you'll miss out. It was good to see you, though. I've always said that I feel this case is simpler than it looks. And all I mean by that is sometimes we look for this really blown up, way out of the, realm of thinking of what happened, versus it's really simple what happened. So it's Occam's razor. I still believe it in this case to some degree. But we don't really know a lot about what the girls were doing in the days prior to the murders, for sure, and what they, who they were talking to or what. And we've all seen, I'm sure, because I showed it last night, the video of Becky, Patty talking about the UBO information, the fact that everything that has come out since knowing that Anthony Schatz what was talking to Libby, and all the things that they've learned and gathered from law enforcement speaking to him, it's been very difficult for her to handle this. And I can actually see why. I mean, I have no question in my mind why it's so difficult for them to wrap their head around this. The part that bothers me is that she's blaming herself. And that she's saying, she should have known, she should have been able to better protect them. She even spoke about talking to the girls. It's, we all want to protect our children. Every one of us wants to make sure that nothing bad happens to our kids. And when something bad happens to them, we obviously are going to blame ourselves and wish we would have done more, or was there something that we could have done differently? Second guessing ourselves doesn't do any good, because you can't go back and change it. They did what they thought. They sent them together. They weren't alone. It's not something that they lived in the country. They didn't have, it wasn't like there was tons and tons of people that went to these trails. I mean, the girls had been out there before. Abby had never been on the bridge. And as far as I know, she hadn't been to the creek since she was a little girl, but Libby went often, and she went a lot with Kelsey. And so it was just something that they did. And the parents and everybody felt it was a safe environment. So, you can only do so much to protect them. So I thought that was an interesting post. I think this one was also very interesting. It's controversial, but I'm still going to read it. And everybody can, I'm just going to preface this. I'm not reading this because I agree with what this person is saying at all, but I do think it's something that I should put out there. So this is about the murder sheet, and it says, the murder sheet, check yourself. Listening to the captain's episode that was dropped by the murder sheet last Friday was an episode, for those of you that aren't aware, it was an episode from last August 2021 that they did on their podcast. They just recently started a YouTube channel, but a lot of people were believing that this was a new interview with the captain from True Crime Garage. It was not. This was a interview that they did with him after True Crime Garage had their 3-part podcast with Skip Jansen. So with that being said, this is what this person wrote to them. Listening to the captain's episode, they are pressuring him on actions they themselves have committed. All things in the case aside, they have blown up Kegan Kline and Tony Kline's full names with no more proof of them even being present at the crime scene, something at least the captain and Skip's suspect, or POI, has been confirmed to be in that location. I could care less about name dropping, but Murder Sheet is losing some points personally from me acting all high and mighty about exposing names when they already do so with their personal favorite suspects. Do you feel referring to the witness by his initials cloaks his identity enough? Do you think it's responsible to run an online campaign accusing an easily identifiable private citizen of murder? These are the questions they posed to the captain. You both have titled your episodes with Kegan Kline and Tony Kline's full name, interviewed their family members and friends. Why don't you ask yourselves the same questions that you're asking the captain? Kegan Kline has been charged with child sex crimes. Tony Kline has been charged with nothing. Nothing for murder and nothing related to the Delphi case. How is that even any different than the captain and Skip's suspect? Be very clear here. I'm not saying I think any of these suspects are more likely to be bridge guy than the other. I'm bothered by the murder sheet putting the captain on the spot like that when they are doing just as much, if not more, of the security breaching as True Crime Garage did. And I don't even really like the captain on True Crime Garage. Let's be real. Without the Delphi podcasts and releasing the Kegan Kline interview, you got lucky to download, which could also be viewed as hindering law enforcement's investigation, I might add. Murder Sheet would have 10% the listeners they do today. Enjoy your work, but tread lightly. So I kind of agree to a point, because the documents, they did release the documents that were filed through the courts, Tamara. Yes, they very much did. Absolutely. And they redacted them. And I think that that says a lot about their integrity. The fact that they did redact them and they took out all the names of the innocent people in those documents. But what this person is saying is that they were calling out the captain for putting forth a suspect or a POI who had never been charged with anything or had never been whatever. And they're saying the same about Kegan Kline and Tony Kline. And it is definitely the truth. Even if you find that hard to wrap your head around, you can't approve one decision and say the other decision is wrong, because they both did the same exact thing. So that's all I'm saying here with that. But yeah, I just thought it was very interesting. And so I just thought that some of the comments were even more interesting. One of them was, I'll chime in as someone who doesn't give a shit about the YouTubers and podcasts on this case. Murder Sheet's recent episodes have given so much context to why Tony Kline and Kegan Kline are relevant. Months ago on this subreddit, I would have been attacked for pointing out that Kegan Kline is so likely connected or affiliated with Bridge Guy. Murder Sheet has not only made significant information available to us, whether via leak or perfect coincidence, and reenacted it in a way people on these subs will actually listen to. Another commenter said, yeah, in my mind, the fact that the Anthony Shots account was one of the last, if not actual last, accounts to contact them makes Kegan Kline immediately an infinitely better suspect than any other person placed forward yet in this case as we know it, and absolute warrants this degree of inspection. Well, I guess the point is that it warrants inspection by law enforcement, but not us. So, Sean, I'm glad to see you here, but that is not true. I am not here for views. I'm not here for subs. I'm here to keep the story flowing for the families. So I beg to differ with you on that. And it says, fact-based, it is the opposite of that. It's using circumstantial evidence to insinuate that two people are indicated in murdering two little girls who can't even be placed in the same town that it happened. Again, you can't argue with that. This person said, I really don't know how to feel about them. I'm fine with Kegan Kline being out there. I think the Down the Hill host, Barbara, interviewed him first and put his name out. Not sure how to feel about putting his dad's name out there, though. I do like that it is bringing the attention to the case. I haven't seen that in a while. As for True Crime Garage, I unsubscribed after Skip and the Captain went all conspiracy theory. The initial thing is a cop-out to me. I'm doing it in my post because we have to. I had a problem with them just saying this witness did it with pretty thin evidence and giving his initials when these people don't even use their real names. So there's obviously a huge sway there between I just think it's, I think it's different to see the different dynamic in this post. You've got, like I said, you've got people calling the captain a Neanderthal, and that Nick should be doing his show solo. It's just crazy to me. I don't know. I don't understand. But anyway, let's move on. So one of the other ones that I found quite interesting was Kagan and Tony's timeline. Let's see. I'm going to put him in a timeout. All right. So from what I've gathered, the father and son duo took a trip to Las Vegas after February 13th, but were back in time for the raids on February 25th. Does anyone know when exactly they left for Vegas and when they returned? Another thought I had after reading the entire transcript last night is this. There is no way law enforcement missed an iPhone that was sitting on top of the microwave, as Kagan claimed he found it when he returned home from the police station. This leads me to believe that the phone was in his father's possession at the time of the raids. Why they would turn it in after that is beyond me, but law enforcement wouldn't serve a search warrant looking for electronic devices and miss an iPhone anywhere, let alone out in the open in the kitchen. And that has always been something that I thought was, crazy for sure. Hi, Vanessa Marie. Thank you so much for coming. Yes, Jamie, you're right. He will be okay. Their podcast is huge. They have a huge fan base. They do a ton of different cases. So, I think that because they seem to be relatively real human beings, that's one reason why people like them. And again, like I said, everybody is not going to like every person who covers true crime. That's why there's always a choice to be made. You don't have to watch them. You don't have to follow them. You don't have to listen. To me, that's the way it should be. Let's see. So that I thought was interesting because I've always said that that phone was being hidden. Should have been, I don't know. I just still think it should have been found, even if it was on Tony's person. But if it was, and he said it was his phone, they didn't have a warrant for his stuff, as far as I know, but we don't know. We've not been able to see the warrant. So I don't know if it was for all electronic devices in the house or if it was for just Kagan's devices in the house. I've never seen the search warrant, so I don't know. So this was another thing that I thought was an interesting one about Kagan. Boy, won't they, Jamie. Haters will always try to knock you off your square. Boy, that's so true. I think we just have to keep everything in perspective, and we should have to try to remain calm and not let people, change our narrative. So I just ask and it shall happen. I just feel like we have to be careful that we make sure we stay true to ourselves, true to the narrative, and keep our integrity. So this post was, Kagan was only interested in nudes. He messaged so many girls and waited for their replies to take the next step. It was canned and scripted replies from Anthony Schatz, all for nude photos. But why would he only target girls local to him? He even targeted a young girl of a family that he actually knew. Why would someone who only wants nudes cast a local net? He didn't want to meet them. He just wanted nudes. So he targeted local girls. Casting a bigger net produces more results for this situation. If all he wanted was nudes, why would he search the family of the girl who invited Anthony Schatz over 7 days after the murder, who later called police after she spotted a guy looking through her window in a ski mask? The one that led police to investigate the Anthony Schatz profile. All for nudes. I'm not sure that we know that that's what led them to Anthony Schatz, but this person seems to think so. Why search the family if you don't plan to meet up with the girl the day before you're expected to meet up? Nudes? Kagan is not some POI that is going to fade away. He was screening. He is directly connected to two situations, one that resulted in 2 girls being murdered while the other caught someone peeping. Those are not coincidences. Kagan didn't kill or go see the girl. He was paid to screen, and someone in his circle was trying to snatch girls that he qualified. That person failed and ended up murdering 2. So that's this person's thoughts, obviously. And again, we're trying to look at psychopathy of why these people do what they do, and we don't have enough information to do that. Exactly, Joe. A defense attorney will say that, would say how many other girls Kagan talked to ended up dead. He definitely would say that. And he would also bring up all the other people that everyone online has, the Garrett Kurtz, the James Chadwells, all the other people that people have thrown out there, all those names for 5 years. A defense attorney is going to bring those up as well. Again, that's why it's not always a good thing to talk about POIs as naming them at all. It's best to talk about situations and stay away from, talking about that. Hey, Miss Thang. They do. I believe you are correct. She says, I believe France has different privacy laws regarding law enforcement requests for account information. I agree. I do believe you are correct on that. But I also believe that France is one of the countries, the European countries, that works closely with the U.S. on just these types of cases. So I don't think it's a reason for them to be going because they're having trouble getting them to cooperate. Now, this one I thought you guys might really, really find interesting. It's okay, Joe. I hate it too. When I type on my iPhone, I make all kinds of errors. Animal hair as evidence. I've been following the new developments in this case as closely as I can, and one theory keeps jumping out at me. What if the DNA evidence, which law enforcement have stated may not be what we expect, is animal hair? I've previously read that the Kleins had a dog that was taken during the searches of their home in November of 2021. If the dog hair matched their dog, this would help narrow it down to the Klein household or someone who interacted with their dog. To me, this potentially explains why they have DNA and it leads to the Klein home, but no way of further differentiating whether it was Kagan or Tony. Some questions I'm pondering. Does the hair from dogs contain DNA? I'm wondering if shed hair contains the hair follicle usually, My dog sheds, and I always have dog hair on me. And seeing how easily dog hair transfers, I've found my dog hairs in places my dog has never ever been. I wonder how much reasonable doubt a defense attorney could stir up. Could be transferred via car ride to another person, attending same vet, closely together, etc. How could law enforcement proceed if this happens to be true? Would it need to be a confession from one or both of the Kleins if the only DNA evidence is from a jointly owned animal? So the answer to their first question, yes, DNA is in dog's hair. And dogs transfer a lot of hair, so there is probably a lot of transfer. But they use animal hairs a lot in solving crimes. I think it's part, I've always said that I feel the DNA evidence that they have, even if it's a small amount of DNA or a part of the DNA that is so mixed with the girl's DNA that they can't get a good profile of the subject, which Paul Foles talked about on the HLN special update. He said that's how he felt. That's what he felt was going on here because of the massive amount of the girl's DNA that would have been at this scene. It's very possible that if they have a mixture, that's what's going on here. But no matter what, I still feel it's just a small part of the big puzzle. I don't believe DNA in this particular case is the smoking gun. I just don't. Hey, Vanessa Marie, welcome. And I just, obviously it could be, but I don't believe it because I believe at this point in time, if it was, they would be further down the line than they are. That's just my opinion. They can test animal DNA and they also can do tests on plant DNA. I watched a documentary on a murder down in the Southwest, and the woman was murdered. She was transported her body was transported in the back of a pickup truck. And as they were going through this brushy outback area in western New Mexico, they came across this particular type of a tree. I can't remember what it was called, but it had like these little, they weren't like seeds, but there were these little things on it that actually came off in the bed they were in the bed of the truck, and they were on her body. And they were able to actually send those to the university, Colorado State University in Fort Collins, Colorado. And there they examined them and ran all kinds of DNA testing on those plant things that they got off the body and out of the truck. And they were able to prove that those came from that bush where the truck had driven through, where they disposed of her body. It was the smoking gun that convicted the guy. And I found that amazing because I didn't know that you could get DNA from plants and that you could prove that this came from this particular plant, this species. I thought that was amazing. So there's a lot of things they can do. There was another one that I thought was interesting. You guys might like to hear. And this one was, the Kleins seem like very plausible suspects, but what led up to the murder? The title basically summarizes it, but if you believe one or both of the Kleins were the killers, what exactly do you suspect happened that day? If the current claims by the police are true, they seem like undeniably vile people. However, I'm struggling to imagine any series of events that make them killers. and leave enough room for them to have gone so long without being charged. The circumstances couldn't be less flattering to the Kleins in connection to the murders, but there's still a lot of missing pieces between contact on Instagram or Snapchat or wherever and the infamous bridge. Without making excuses, there's a huge leap between catfishing for pictures hidden behind an anonymous account and a broad daylight rendezvous, let alone a murder. Have either of the Kleins been accused or convicted of anything violent or even involving real-life meetings other than the insinuations around Delphi? Well, we all know the answer to that. For sure, Tony has been. Kagan claims in the police interview that his father had a history of domestic abuse, but that is still a far-fetched stretch from the events of that day. If it was one or both of them involved, it also seems so cut and dry. What do you think the missing piece is if they have texts planning to meet at the location and time of the murder? Further, if two people in the residence used the account for the same purposes, why was only one brought in for questioning? That makes it seem like they wanted to observe how the elder Klein reacts when the heat is turned up. But what is it that they're watching for? So I really thought that that was an interesting post. And Joe says he's struggling, that Becky said it was a spur of the moment thing. So how did anyone know they would be at the trails? Well, I don't believe that it was a spur of the moment thing. Becky thinks it was a spur of the moment thing, but I think that the girls knew that they were talking, obviously, to Anthony Schatz. He wanted to meet them, and that's why it became a spur of the moment, because I think he contacted her and said, hey, let's meet. And she was probably thinking, well, we could go out to the trails, that we can get somebody to take us out to the trails. In my mind, that may be how it went down, but we don't know. I think the only way that anyone knew that they were going to be at the trails would be that they were speaking with them. That's the only way they would know. There are people who have said that depending on who these people are, if they were able to see any of their movements or posts on Snapchat, they would know they were at the trails only after the video or the images were uploaded. And we all know that bridge guy appeared so fast after that, he was already there. So I know Vanessa, she is having trouble grasping that. It was so gut-wrenching to watch her in that interview and talk about it. I cried when I watched it because I just wanted to reach out and give her a hug and tell her, please don't blame yourself. Kids are crafty, and teenagers are teenagers. We were all teenagers once. And we all know the things that we did or didn't tell our parents we were doing. Yeah, little Pookie said, Becky was supposed to think it was an impulse, not a plan. And I agree. I agree with that as well. It was supposed to look as if it was just an impulse thing, because hindsight's 20/20, but boy, had the girls just decided to go to the mall, things might have, you look at that and you just go, wow. So, yeah, that's the other thing. The time frame of how long the girls were actually there is so short that there's just too many coincidences that can't match up. For it to be a random thing, I'm not there anymore. I can't, it's not random. This was targeted. Digital said they were up most of the night talking with other teenagers and several were going to go to the trails. Kelsey said she knew several kids that were planning to go. Yes, Kelsey had friends who had been out at the trails that day. She talks about that. So Jamie, thank you. Yeah, please like and subscribe, you guys, if you like the video or the chat or the live and what you're learning. Please share it if you would like to as well. And don't forget to look at my video content because my videos have a lot of Delphi content in them. A lot of us were rebellious at 14, and it doesn't mean anything. You know, I think what happens here is when we start talking about this or trying to wrap our heads around this, you know, we're not blaming the girls, because even if they were being rebellious and they thought they were going out there to meet a boy, they were still being 14-year-old girls and they didn't deserve to be murdered. It's not their fault. Nothing those girls did that day is their fault. Nothing. So, you know, every bit of the blame lays on Bridge Guy. Thank you so much, Alexa. And you too, Jane. Thank you so much, you guys. I think that there's a lot more at play here than we may think, because I still go back to law enforcement telling us, just look at the interview that was done with Anna right at the 5th anniversary. It was down by the creek, and I'm trying to remember who interviewed her. And I think it was, I just can't remember who it was now, but it was law enforcement that was talking to her. And I think it might have been Tobe. But anyway, he said to her that people are going to be shocked. And they keep saying that. They've said that to us now for 3 years, since 2019, that when this case is resolved and they're able to tell their story about what they know and why they did what they've done and all of that, we're going to be shocked. And I don't think that Kagan and Tony Klein are enough to shock us. I mean, I think it's shocking, the CSAM stuff, don't get me wrong, and all of that. But I think there's more to the shock than just that. And that's what I keep trying to wrap my head around as I go through this case day after day. And I can't bring myself to figure out what it is that's going to shock us. Is it because there's somebody higher up in the community that's involved in this? Is it because whoever this person turns out to be is an upstanding person? People are going to know him, and all of that. It's not just going to be somebody that, you know, a Tony Klein or a Kagan Klein or whatever. I just don't know. I really don't know. I just think that there's more layers. Oh, you're fine. You're so fine, Vanessa. You don't have to apologize. I know that you weren't trying to place blame on anyone. I just want you to know that, and everybody out there to know, because there's a lot of people that try to blame the girls for, you know, they did something that put them in harm's way. And I'm tired as a female in this society. We all grow up having to look over our shoulders as a female. Every single one of us live in fear as a female. We've been taught since we were little girls. You always have to know your surroundings. You always have to pay attention when you're alone in a group of men. You have to be, all of this. I'm tired of it. We shouldn't have to live that way. We should be able to go to a trail with our friend and not expect to be murdered. That's all I'm saying. It's just, it's not their fault. There's still people that are posting on social media out there about all the other offenders that possible offenders or POIs that we've all known and heard about. People are still bringing that up, and I just don't understand that really, but it's really weird, I don't know. It's really crazy. Somebody posted, they wondered if anybody still believes that it's possible that the culprit in the Delphi slayings could be a person of authority in a religious setting, such as a church, pastor, youth group leader, etc. Obviously, it could be anybody. So, sure. I think those have all been talked about as well for over the years. But yeah, I just think that law enforcement's looking at a lot of things. I think they have, like we saw in the first video I showed, they get inundated with tips. And these smaller police forces, it can be so draining. And the FBI has given them a ton of resources to help with that, but you still are having these massive amounts of tips come in, and every single one of them has to be investigated. They can't just say, oh, that doesn't sound like anything we want to look at. They have to look at everything they get. Everything. So that's a lot of legwork and a lot of data that they have to mine, and data mining and vetting and going through and making sure. I think they're looking at financial records. I'm sure they're looking at what kind of income these people, POIs they may be looking at have, how that may play into it. People have thought about, what kind of money may have been being made off of these photos. There's just been so many different things speculated, and all of that's possible, but you doggone well know that that's one of the things that they're going to go through. Financial banking records. They're going to look at all the travel records, credit card usage. Any of that can provide information such as the location of where people were at any given point in time. They're going to look at ATM information. They're going to look at the origination of deposits. It looks like, if Tony is no longer working, which I don't know that anybody's been able to verify if he's still working or not, but if he's on unemployment or he's unemployed and Kagan wasn't working, how were these people surviving? I just think that they're going to be looking at all that stuff. So with all that information that's coming in, it takes time to go through that. And now that we know there's a possibility that there is a special prosecutor that's been appointed to this case, it may very well be that they've started over and that they're just beginning, an investigation. But I think that they're farther along than that. I imagine, Pookie, that it is ISP that's going, and I imagine that it's being paid for by the state. And it may very well be that the FBI goes with them. It could very well be that FBI goes with them to France. I agree with you. I think that this is a huge connect the dots picture. I think they're connecting dots. And I think as they get closer and closer, once they get that final dot connected, they're going to have Bridge Guy's face. And they're going to know for sure this is the guy, and we've got enough. I was talking to someone a couple of days ago, and when he and I were having our discussion, he said to me, it's quite possible that a prosecutor has told them, you don't have enough. You've got to go back and get this, this, and this. And that's what they're trying to do right now. So I think that could very well be true. And I think they've been watching him for a while, little Pookie. I definitely do. So, and this was another thing that I thought was interesting. But you guys remember, you know, in the picture of Bridge Guy on the bridge, and you know the little brown pouch thing that everybody was trying to figure out what that was underneath his jacket on his side there? Somebody brought up on Reddit, could that be an insulin pump inside that pouch? Which I found to be extremely interesting because, you know, it very well could be, depending on a lot of things. I mean, I'm not positive how men carry those, but I do know that some people do use like fanny packs and that to carry the actual pump itself. So I thought that was interesting to bring that up. I hadn't seen anybody talk about that before, and it very well could be, obviously. I thought it was interesting, and I was happy to see that Good Morning America covered the case and a good summary on it, bringing it back into the national spotlight, because I think that, like I said, the more we can keep the case out there, the better off it is. And like I said before to you guys, you know, there are a lot of theories that have been thrown around there and tossed around here for the last 5 years. And I've had my own. I mean, I've had my own theories. I don't share them just because I don't feel I have enough information to do that. But, you know, it could have been a lot of simple things, but it may not have been an intentional thing. And I still say that about this whole thing with Bridge Guy. I'm not trying to take away the evil this man did, because God only knows he needs to pay for the brutality of what he did and what he's taken away from this world and from these families. But what if he just went out there that day to meet some girl to get pictures from her that was promised or whatever, and they noticed that, oh my gosh, this is not the person that we thought we were going to meet, and it's not the right guy or whatever, and then things went downhill from there, and then before you know it, you know, there you go. So anything, like I said, there are so many different scenarios that could be what happened that day. I just think we could talk about it until the cows came home, so to speak, as my mom used to say. But we're never going to get anywhere, because until we know more and until the case is actually adjudicated, I don't think we're going to know what happened that day. And I do think, again, when we do, it's going to be more than a lot of us can even begin to handle. So let's see. Alexa says, I think the brown part we see could be an apron folded with knives. My dad is a hunter and he has one of those. Quite very possible. Obviously, you know, I think that this person probably was a hunter, and I have no doubt that this person probably was a hunter. So Chihuahua just asked her daughter, oh my days, my daughter knows what Yubo is. I just asked her. So there you go. And Chihuahua's in Australia, so that explains a lot, because a lot of people in the US aren't familiar with it yet, but it seems like our young people are, because it's an app that's based at them. The app is actually focusing on our young people. So that makes Clue. Yeah, and Vanessa, exactly. Who would have thought 4 or 5 years ago that France would now be involved? It is insane. This case, like I said, just keeps getting more layers and more layers to it. And it's, you know, I think it's going to be a lot when we find out what's really going on. I'd never heard of it either. I was kind of floored because it was called Yellow before it was called Yubo, and I don't remember when they changed the name. I don't remember if I even looked that up, but make sure, Chihuahua, that you talk to her about that app and what it's and how dangerous it is to be on it. If she's been on it, hopefully she just knows what it is. But and that's the truth too. You know, we can talk about it, and I agree, Jamie. The case is massive, and that's why Doug Carter told us that it was going to take between 60 and 80 additional law enforcement officers, because the size of this case is so massive. They're going to have so much to go through. And before they present the case to the district attorney or prosecutor, they have to go over every single piece of information in their murder book to make sure that everything is there. They have to have every address, every phone number. They have to have the spelling of every person's name correct, birth dates. They have to have every date and time stamp of everything. They have to have a completed timeline of events that occurred, and they have to put all of that together. It all has to connect. There can be no holes and there can be no questions. They have to answer them all, because again, the burden of proof is on the prosecution. It's not on the defense. The defense has to can choose to not put on any proof of anything, because it's all up to the prosecution. So they want to make sure that everything is perfect before they take it into court. They only get the one shot at it, and they don't want to waste that shot and lose out and let him go free. So, and just like Doug Carter said, we're waiting on that one piece of the puzzle, and one of these days they're going to get it. And that's just my feeling. So I wanted to end my live tonight with this. I'm going to share my screen again. Give me just a minute to do this for you guys. So Becky Patty shared this back on March 31st, and I did post it today in my community page on my channel. But hope. If you only carry one thing throughout your entire life, let it be hope. Let it be hope that better things are always ahead. Let it be hope that you can get through even the toughest of times. Let it be hope that you are stronger than any challenge that comes your way. Let it be hope that you are exactly where you are meant to be right now, and that you are on the path to where you are meant to be. Because during these times, hope will be the very thing that carries you through. And I'm telling you, without hope, we have nothing. So, everybody keep up the faith, keep up the hope. We're going to get there. And, I think that not in our time, but like Kelsey has said over and over again, she believes in a higher power, and she believes it will be in their time, his time. So we're going to get there. I do believe that. And with that, I'm going to say goodnight to all of you. I'm so thankful that you all came tonight. I appreciate each and every one of you. Tomorrow is Good Friday. For those of you that do celebrate, I hope you all have a fantastic Easter with your family and your friends. And those of you who do not, I still wish you a wonderful and absolute blessed weekend. I hope that you get to spend time with your family and friends. And please don't stop thinking about Abby and Libby. and make sure you share their story when you can, because that, in my opinion, is going to help to keep this case in the forefront of everyone's minds. And I do believe that these girls' stories matter more than we know. But yes, happy Easter to everyone. And hey, Brad, I didn't see you come in. Thank you for being here. You guys have a great weekend. Chihuahua, thank you so much for coming. You guys always have such great commentary. I just love my chat. It's so calm and quiet. I mean, I'm sitting in here right now, and I can't see if any of my mods are still in here, because I know that Real Chill Graz is live right now as well, I think. And so they may all be over there. But anyway, without even my mods in here, you guys, I mean, have kept it so wonderful, and I love it. And I really appreciate you. So have a good one. And I will talk to you all next week. You probably will not see me this weekend. So I will be with family. But anyway, good night, everybody.